The good part of what I'm about to say is one does not have to believe in it for it to exist or to take effect as it pertains to the degrees of separation of one's activity and its existence in of itself. And it is also independent of the quantum physics principles where reality behaves differently when observed, regardless of whether you observe it or not, regardless of your comprehension of its existence or not. It would always do its own thing because the laws that it is governed by in the realm of its own is separate from the laws that we can observe with our five senses, and it goes beyond the mundane state of mind. So those with ears will hear and listen. Those who are not ready to hear, it's well, it's fine. There's a time and place for everything. The Asaphs went back with all haste to learn in reference to the food, and in due time they came again before God, saluting, saying, What shall we do, O God? Behold, this Essenes, while in the corporeal form, feasted on fish and flesh, corporeal and physical world. How can we bring them to the atmospherian part of these things? Meaning there are entities in a realm you cannot see that constantly has a goal to merge activities that you and I do here on a realm we can observe with our five senses with that which cannot be observed with our five senses. I always say, and I always repeat, there's more to all this than what meets the eyes, and you must work harder in the spiritual realm than you do in the physical world, the world you can observe with your five senses. Everything that we can see in the corporal realm is predicated upon that which can be unseen, but there are laws, universal and natural laws, that separate certain abilities and certain powers, but upon certain similitude, which those who study things will know that similitude is the power behind affirmations, prayer, alchemy, magic, whatever other derivatives of words, however fanciful or simple people might want to call it. Similitude is the power. Just as much as you can use certain waters during certain moon phase, or the sand during a certain time of the day, or as the sun is rising, you can say certain things because of the water and the air and the composite of the chemicals in the air is different from that of midday versus sunset and dusk. Similitude. Just as much as Saturn is consecrated to lead, Jupiter is consecrated to tin, Venus to copper, the sun, gold, etc., and those specific metals or certain plants that corresponds with these other planets can be used for certain things to bring in and pull down the similitude and the influence to actually affect you on this physical realm. Certain things exist that directly correlates to certain activities in the physical realm that has effect that cannot be seen, and they plan and have their own intent and activity that other people with similar intent can pull and work with. God said, even the last time ye were present, ye said, ye had gathered all the atmospherian part of trees, the ethers, the chi, the ki, whatever it is people call it, the essence behind things that sustains life beyond what can be seen, and seeds and plants growing out of the earth. Why then can ye gather of the atmospherian part of fish and worms? The Asaph said, Alas, this difference have we observed. The trees and plants and fruits emit delightful atmospheres, meaning the essence of trees and plants are so pure, their certain entities cannot work with it. They run away from it. It's like a mosquito spray. This is the reason why you see some people take resins from trees and burn them as incense to clean out things energetically. This is how you see people burn twigs and plants like sages, palo, all that, because there are certain essence concentrated within the oil, within the vessels, within the liquid, within the energy and life force of those plants, leaves, barks, twigs, that certain entities in an unseen realm does not like working with. Most nutritious of the spirit But that which is emitted from the living fish and living worms is foul smelling. They find things that is dead, certain things that are decayed, certain things that are foul smelling as pleasant. This is the reason why you hear the phrase cleanliness is close to godliness. This is the reason why you hear people go on about what you eat affects your spirituality. We're not here to judge you about whether you're good or not, because the extent one man might have to go to accomplish certain things spiritually might not be the same for the other man, because all men and all women are not created equal. One man can be a fruitarian, breatharian, vegetarian, and only drink water, and the other man can be eating fish every day and still accomplish things in a greater measure and greater means than the other man who's a fruitarian, or vegetarian, or a vegan. The other man who's supposedly overweight, 190 something, 200 and something pounds, might be the best hearted man or woman that will save your life if you're in a problem. Whereas the vegan, the vegetarian, the fruitarian can be the biggest asshole that you will ever meet. So don't get it twisted. We're not judging you by how you eat. But the truth remains that certain substances that exist in earth are accepted by certain entities that you don't see in the physical world, that have certain intents to perpetuate certain things that's beneficial to them. It's neither considered good or bad. It's just what it is. Remember, the divine creator, or the totality of circumstance in nature's law, does not care about what you and I perceive as good or bad. It just is. And what is the similitude of reality that you choose to consecrate yourself with. The Asaph said, "Alas, this difference have we observed. The trees and plants and fruits emit delightful atmosphere, most nutritious to the spirit. But that which is emitted from the living fish and living worm is foul smelling, being but the sweat and dead substance evaporating. What then shall we do?" God said, "Go ye to the place where mortals kill fish and worms, and in the same time that mortals tear these things with their teeth, snatch from their hands and mouths the atmospherian part of the food, and give it to these Essenes. Remember also that little by little you shall teach them to live in the other kinds of food." Many of these other entities in these other realms cannot sustain themselves outside of your activity. Your life force, your consensual daily activities, serves as a similitude on an energetic level that they need to feed on by way of what you affiliate yourself with. When certain people wear certain colors, that means a lot. There's a reason why certain colors resonates with certain so-called chakra, which affects certain impulse in your body, which affects certain fortune. People know if you want to remove hex or protect yourself from magical things of nature, purple does that in a very good way, whether you realize it or not. There's a natural reason why women are attracted to the color pink, even though that might not be their favorite color, but generally speaking, there are more population of women that enjoy pink than men. That is because that color pink is a derivative of purple that protects things spiritually. And this similitude exists with things that you and I eat. So what we embody, what we eat, what we drink, there are entities around you and I every day. That impulse for you to do certain behaviors when you eat certain food, or after you eat it, you really don't feel good, you really don't feel well, you don't feel satisfied about it. Yet you got up and went there and did that activity. It doesn't have to be food. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you put in your mouth and consume. It can be other activities, one way or the other. Know that that impulse, that drive, is influenced by something that you did not see, because it requires that activity from you to sustain its life. In this specific case, the things people eat, the act of people eating a certain carcass, allows other entities to come in and eat along with it. So here, the point of this video is to let you know that in certain cultures, they would always tell you before you eat, after you eat, or while you're eating, give offerings to those who came before you, your progenitors, or other entities that live around you, and invite them in willingly and instruct them and create terms and conditions for giving them those food, such as your guardian angels or any other entities around you, that they do certain things by you remembering them. If you don't remember them, then they will force the spirit out of those things that you're eating. Before you realize it, you're gonna eat as much as you want, yet you're not gonna be filled up. You're still gonna be, quote, hungry. Although your belly is full, you feel tired and lethargic, yet you are always hungry, despite the fact that your system has not eliminated what you ate the day before or 5 days previous. You still feel this need to get something to put, something to do. It doesn't have to be food, it can be an activity, but in this case, it's what people put in their mouth. And when you eat certain things, just as much as when you do any certain activities, there are certain entities that correspond with it and live off of that, one way or the other. The energy behind studying and pen and paper game is the same way. There are certain entities that will prevent you from being able to do what you want to do despite you knowing exactly that it's right or wrong. This is what a lot of people suffer from. They know that there's substance behind what's been done wrong. They know that there's solution, but somehow, some way, they just can't get it right. They keep running into some roadblock, one way or the other. I'm telling you, there's more to it than what meets the eyes. The example here is just a similitude of when people consume food, and certain types of food attract certain types of entities. Doesn't necessarily make you a bad man or bad woman, doesn't necessarily decrease your capacity or capability. It just simply is. And as ye do by these Essenes, do ye also in after time to other, remembering that what men subsist on in corporal life is entailed on them in spirit for a space of time after entering atmosphere. Whatever you do on a physical realm has an etheric unseen correspondence that affects the essence of your existence, your spirit. Besides the actual term spirit actually being the invocation of intent, which is word, spirit from the perspective that we're looking at it now is the essence of things, the incorporeal aspect, what you do physically. It doesn't have to be what you eat again. This is just a similitude of, quote, food. It can be anything, all the way up to the type of clothing you wear. When you wear certain types of clothing made of cotton, made of materials from wool versus other materials, it affects your health. It affects the way you feel. It affects things that you attract in reality. And of the like substance shall they be fed spiritually. The Asaphs then departed. On the third day thereafter, as above mentioned, the voice of Jehovah came from God, saying, My son, behold, what the Asaphs have done in my name thoughtlessly. They came to the fishery, and did as thou badest, gathering food for the Essenes, and at their sides stood the Essenes, saying, Why gather ye food for us? Behold, we are now strong in spirit. Suffer us to gather for ourselves. And the Asaph said, It seems well. Do as ye desire. Men and unseen entities influence man and woman in our daily activities, whereas we think it's our deliberate, intelligent decisions. It is not. There's more to this world than what meets the eyes. There's a reason why people will tell you a lot of information that they have accumulated about one thing and how it's wrong, how it's bad, how it's fraud, yet they cannot put it to use. There is an intent by those people who are tortfeasors that aligns perfectly with things in the spiritual realm that they are utilizing. These people, on the other hand, that you're dealing with, that you're calling fraud, they comprehend the true meaning of arts and craft. Beyond using scissors to cut papers and gluing things together and coloring and making them look cute, they comprehend the importance and the similitude of that which you cannot see as it directly relates to that which you can see. And believe it or not, most of the reasons why most people fall for a lot of traps and amidst in their journey of studying certain things when it comes to pen and paper game are these things that cannot be seen with five senses. The traps that are set for many people reading a lot of PDFs, studying this, studying that, trying to get their children back, trying to get rid of student loans, trying to get rid of this court case for years after years after years. It goes beyond what you see with your five senses. Thereupon, the Essenes went to the fishermen and fisherwomen, who were eating raw flesh. And the Essenes laid hold of the atmospherian part and ate thereof a sufficiency. This is the reason why people put offerings from the fruit, whatever they eat. It doesn't necessarily have to be you deliberately buying food for some spirit or cooking food for some spirit. It can be every time you eat. Some people in certain cultures, you see them going on a 3-corner or a 4-corner or 5 corners and just put part of what they eat. Or before they drink or eat anything, you see them use it as a form of libation. Doesn't necessarily have to be an alcohol or water. It can literally be anything. Before you consume it, the first bite, you put it out there. There's a reason why people do that. These so-called African booty scratchers, people make fun of all that. They're not stupid people. They know what they're doing when they do these things. They comprehend way more than what goes beyond what you observe with your five senses. And these so-called fraudulent people that you hate so much, the so-called judges, governors, commissioners that everyone hates, they comprehend these principles. These Jews that everyone hates, they do all these things on a grand scale to keep them successful. But people refer to it as devil worship. But these are just foundational correspondence principles of reality and their comprehension that you and I do not live in this world alone. What we experience in our daily lives is intertwined inevitably with other activities, other intent, other goals of other entities that you and I don't see with our five senses. It doesn't have to be creepy. It doesn't have to be fearful. It's just simply what it is. If one thinks they live in this world alone and the only thing that exists is just humans and animals, that's called being delusional. And then the Asaph said to them, Ye have feasted sufficiently. Come ye away with us. But lo, the Asians engrafted themselves on the fishermen. Meaning, once these unseen entities have done what they have to do, they remain with these men and women, because now there's a source of food for them, unbeknownst to the man or woman, or whether the man or woman know about it, and would not depart. The Asaphs, not knowing what to do, called on my name. Send thou, O God, quickly to them, those skilled in deliverance, and may Essenes be preserved unto everlasting life. And God summoned those skilled in deliverance of engraftment, and dispatched them hastily, the messengers, to the place of the fisheries. The Asaph said, If we leave the Asians alone, they will return again to the fishery and fasten themselves upon mortals, doing nothing but eating, feasting upon people's life force, by virtue of their daily activities. God said, Near the fisheries, but in atmosphere, go ye and fashion a colony, and it shall be your colony in the heaven. Thither take these Essenes, not showing them the way of the fisheries. And the colony put ye them to work, weaving and making clothes and otherwise producing. But go ye for the food at the fisheries, and bring sufficiently every day, given only to them who labor, or to invalids and helpless ones. There are things that exist in this world beyond what's observed with the five senses. For those who read the Bible, it is given to you. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tomb to meet him. This man lived in the tomb, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. Now, yeah, the Bible could be read at least, on average, 7 different ways. Some being allegorical, some being literal. In this sense, we're reading it from the perspective whereby they're telling you what actually occurs, meaning there's more to this thing, again, than what meets the eyes. The man lived in the tomb, and no one could bind him anymore, but not even with a chain, for he had often been changed hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tomb and the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me. For Jesus had said to him, Come out of this man, you impure spirit. Keep in mind the previous things we just read here regarding how certain entities were sent against the entities that were feasting the man or woman to subdue them. Then Jesus asked him, What is your name? My name is Legion, he replied, for we are many. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demon begged Jesus, "Send us amongst the pig. Allow us to go inside them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirit came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in numbers, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. This could be interpreted again in many different ways beyond what meets the eyes. But looking at it from just a general perspective, from a uniform perspective, even from a perspective where the most layman can read it and comprehend it, is that there's more to this reality than what you and I observe. And there are other interested parties in the similitude of your life, whether it's good fortune or bad fortune. And you are being feasted on, whether you realize it or not. The next step is on you to work towards removing that. Your ability to know whether it exists or not, your ability to believe whether it exists or not, does not prevent or stop it from doing what it does. It's just simply what is. The same entities that we are speaking of are the same entities that linger about in places like churches, that linger about in places like mosques, and all these so-called religious places. But all these pastors and religious people are worshiping is not the divine creator. They are these entities. If you really have eyes to see, you will see it. It is no coincidence that certain churches are built near, next, or on top of a graveyard. It is no coincidence that certain things, certain buildings, important, are built in certain areas. The people who are utilizing these flow of life force know what they are doing. They are serving something else to be used as a medium to control the public at large. The question you ought to ask yourself is, what are you doing in your daily life to remove the influence of these things that are not unseen? Knowledge is power, and the lack thereof will harm you. If all you're planning to do is just read some PDF day after day and thinking that's going to be the limits of your knowledge and wisdom and your solution, you will fall into the trap. Year after year, you just be going on and on about speculation without any true solution. Stop being a victim to ignorance. Stop being a victim to hype train. All these PDFs put out is by those same people who you purport to be getting away from. All these things that you're reading, that you thinking is proper, all this secure party stuff, they are put out by those same people who you want to get away from. And there are certain life force and energies concentrated into each of those documents that is binding your mind. The least you cannot say is that somebody has not told you. Take care and best of luck. Hey, and also don't forget to join my Patreon if you haven't. There I go through documents that I have used personally successfully and videos that I do not post here on YouTube that are in many ways private in nature. And also I go through live audio interactions and video interaction of my own experience with certain things. And I also have a website where you can go through a list of documents or services if you need them. And these videos that are posted on YouTube are also uploaded on Anchor. You can listen to it via audio means. And there's an Instagram page and a Facebook page. The link is on the screen and in the description. Take care and best of luck.